crypto asset? Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. We have a huge show for you today. Trump just got done speaking at Davos. The markets are in turmoil. And yes, the 10 a.m. manipulation is back. And I have major news for XRP holders. We had the largest ETF outflow day in history. And we're going to look at the numbers. They might shock you if you're an XRP bull. I'm here with TJ. TJ, are you ready to talk a little Davos? And yes, I have the banter black on black on today.
Yeah, the black on black. Yeah, I'm ready to. I watched Trump's talk this morning. I think that was pretty interesting. I didn't catch the very beginning of it, but got most of it. So a lot of big things on the table right now. Obviously, big price swings. Metals going crazy, and some of that stuff, generally speaking, in history says when gold and silver and copper and all those things are going up in a straight line for a continuous time period, you should probably be have some caution, because a lot of stuff, that doesn't, all is not right when metals are the highest performing asset out there. So,
Yeah.
But I do think we're going to come together. I did see the question about fasting. I did finish my fast. I concluded it yesterday, so I ended up hitting close to 5 days there.
What was it? Is it like a bone broth, a clear soup, or do you just go straight into a porterhouse steak?
No, I did that the first time, and I learned my lesson. I went into a New York strip with eggs the first time, and I was like, oh, I felt that on my stomach. So, no, this time it was just ate light, like some fish, stuff like that, and didn't eat too much. So, but it is amazing. Like, you don't want to come back to it too fast, because it takes, your body's just like, whoa, what is this? So, but yeah, I'm all for it. I really enjoyed it. I'll probably do 2 more before the end of the year.
And not everyone's aware the word breakfast actually comes from the 2 words break fast, because you break in your fast from overnight. Breakfast.
I did not know that.
I was like, in my 20s when I learned that, I was like, what the heck? Let's look at 10 a.m. here. 10 a.m. You can see the candle right there. Bitcoin coming in with the nice pump. When we go back to the 1 hour, you can see maybe breaking the downtrend, but this was seen in the charts. You can see it right here. Very, very strong bull divs on the 1 hour candles here. When we're talking about the bull divs, I would say this is more of a hidden divergence. You could play with the wicks. Very sharp move to the upside. It is a lot sharper of an angle that we're seeing right here. And you definitely could see some nice divergences right here as well as the RSI starts to bottom out. So it does look like Bitcoin wants to recover, but we got a lot of warning signs saying that things are going to be heading lower. And in fact, if you kind of zoom out to the 1 hour, a lot of people saying a fresh bear flag that is within a larger bear flag. So we got bear flags on bear flags on bear flags, and we're going to break this down. But TJ, you're bringing up metal, silver, gold, people in crypto. We're not feeling the gains. There's a lot of people, they're just quietly seething right now as some silver bug is, celebrating like the Lehman Brothers just collapsed.
Yeah, well, that's me and you right now. You're over there with your silver and gold options, and I'm like, yeah, Bitcoin's coming. It's coming. I know it's coming.
I'm the bald guy smiling in the background. That's me right there. I'm just a little Lutnick there.
60 cents. I gave you that call at 60 cents.
I gave it to you at 60. We are going to check in on the options. Still in the palladium pals. We're in the gold, and the copper was looking good this morning. I shared my copper options. I pulled the trigger on some more yesterday. But let's talk about Bitcoin potential dump. Gold straight line, silver straight line, not a great sign. And I'll also tell you what's not a great sign. We just hit 12-year trend line support. This is a trend line. This is monthly candles. We've been on this trend line. It's a log chart trend line since year 2013. So a 12-year, now 13-year trend line. Lucky number 13. And now we're flirting with disaster. If we lose this trend line, that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of calls for very low numbers. I've seen as low as 30K. It's not just 60K. I'm not even kidding. 30K wow. Bitcoin.
That would be a cataclysmic result. I've heard a lot of 50Ks. You guys know where I've kind of said I believe the bottom more or less was touched when we hit below 80, and that's was ever 76, 78 range. I do think 85 has pretty well established itself as a pretty good support. That being said, Yeah, breaking a, if it's going back to 2013, that's almost about as long of a trend line you can get in Bitcoin. There's not a lot of charts that go back quite that far. I mean,
No.
that's about the begin. That's pretty close to the beginning as far as like actual trading volume goes. So the mode I'm in right now, like I'm still tempted. I was tempted to buy. I'm still have a little bit of a cash pile, but I'm going to continue to build that cash reserve up. And just see if I can get some of those lower number purchases. I've accumulated a decent amount in these ranges to where if it continues to go, if it rallies from here, say we get some, we're talking about the tariff playbook and kind of what to expect in the coming weeks. Deals probably going to be happening in Davos if I had to expect. I do think they're getting close on multiple deals. I think even in his speech, he said something, about 2 or 3 days or no later than 3 weeks on some of these peace deals. So I think they're going to see some significant progress, which falls perfectly in line with Kobieski's playbook that we've been covering so much. We told you guys when this stuff started to happen, expect it to, these are going to be short rallies of optimism and then go lower. And, we're seeing that right now. So assuming those deals come out and prices do go back higher, I feel like I've accumulated enough, but I've still got a chunk of cash left, and I'm just kind of building my cash bag over the next few weeks or months if needed. And if we do get any of those really low numbers, again, the one I hear the most that I can at least conceptualize happening is in the 50s. I don't believe we're going to go into the 50s, but if we do, I will be prepared for that.
All right, there you go. He will be prepared. Do you have some cash on the sidelines? One fun thing, I was looking at this chart, TJ. You see a very strong wick right there. Whoa, major deviation to the downside. This candle is February 2014. And a lot of people, I know what that is. Mt. Gox collapse there. So not a fun trend line. You don't want to be near this 12-year trend line, folks. This is scary moment for Bitcoin. Let's talk about a $60,000 Bitcoin where we saw the small bear flag within the larger bear flag. The large bear flag is heading for 60K if this does play out. This is coming from a post. I just want to go straight to the post. It's Crypto Patel. I haven't followed this guy. I'm going to wait. I saw he's a KOL for Coin Market Cap and Binance. So I'm going to wait till I see a couple more posts from this guy. But bear flag support on the verge of a breakdown, testing the critical support channel at 87K. Breakdown, and it opens the path to a $60,000 Bitcoin. Let's go to the charts. Let's track it ourselves here. We sure are. We are testing the lower range of this boundary, of this bear flag. Let's just be as accurate as possible. I want to make sure I'm not playing with any wicks or anything. And let's just say this is the breakdown that we're going to see. This is daily candles. Let's just say it's a regular chart. We're not trying to play with you here. It's actually much lower, TJ. $42,000. But there are some people who are going to put it in from the top. But even then, you're $53,000. Very scary, just TA when you're looking at Bitcoin. And I did say there's a small one within the large one. You go to the 1 hour. This is close enough to a bear flag, in my opinion. You could say maybe it's semi-invalidating right here. Short-term pain takes us back to the $80,000, TJ. Takes us right there.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of saying that to me seems to be very, very strong support. And you can go back even further and, like I said, see the 78 levels and some of those. But 50, it would have to be dramatic, and I don't believe it would last long. And that's kind of what I'm saying. That's part of what I'm preparing for. If we see something like a 50, I'm just dumping the rest of my cash in right there because it could be as short as it could go down there and be back up into the 70s or 80s within a day or less even. And again, what I've experienced in March of 2020, you're talking about hours of time to accumulate some of those levels where Bitcoin went from approximately 7,300 to 3,800, depending on what exchange you were looking at, and then snapped right back up into the sevens, in an evening. So, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out of Davos right now. I will say markets are going to be very volatile. Be plugged in. This is breaking news. I just saw it come out a few minutes ago. EU has officially suspended their trade deal with the U.S. among Greenland tensions. So that the tensions are continuing to rise between U.S. and Europe as these things continue. A lot of people are speculating about Trump's board of peace and that he's going to be making a new NATO and kind of replacing
the shots at Canada. I don't know if you saw this one. This is also breaking news. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, little Mark. The next time you make statements, calling out.
I mean,
Uh,
he was not holding back when it came to his comments about how many people rely on the United States. And now he did specifically say that he wasn't going to use force for Greenland. He said he's not going to do that. He said we could, but we're not. So I think that maybe, and that's emboldened Europe a little bit. So we'll just have to wait and see how all this plays out. I think, again, we said this earlier in the week. A lot of this stuff is political posturing. You want to take this news in, process it for yourself, but don't overreact to it, because most of it is just yapping back and forth. And most likely there will come to some type of agreement. That's usually, I mean, Trump made that very clear. He wants to end wars. He wants to make agreements and make deals. Oh, it was the Russia Ukraine stuff that he's saying he thinks can be resolved in the near future. And then basically Trump's entire cabinet is there. Everybody from Howard Lutnick, Scott Bessent, Mark Rubio, a lot of these people that are negotiating a lot of these deals are all there. And this is Davos, World Economic Forum. We've covered it a lot before. That's where some of the worst people in the world are all the time. And this is where a lot of those backroom deals happen. This is where a lot of fates are decided by the rich and powerful.
Yeah, specifically, you could point to ESG as a recent example. That framework was settled at Davos. So when you think, oh, they're just having tea and crumpets, no, they're actually making policy decisions, folks. There is a quick question: where do you stake your arrow at aerodrome.finance? I don't want to say. I might say the URL.
Yeah, aerodrome.finance is definitely a place you can do it. There's a lot of different ways. I mean, there's a program called VFAT that a lot of people use that it's kind of a third party. Now that you got to do your own security vetting and come to your own conclusions, but that allows you to automate a lot of stuff that doesn't exist on aerodrome.finance. So you can go check that stuff out. I'm sure you don't have to do it that way. There's when it comes to staking, there's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you're talking about doing flight school, if you're talking about actually using and creating the concentrate, we use a lot of concentrated liquidity pools. That's what we're using VFAT for. So that's VFAT. And go check that out. Make sure you don't find, I'll put a link in just a minute because you don't want to use the wrong one.
Yeah, you don't want to use the wrong one. Now, we are going to go back to Trump. Let's talk about Bitcoin for a second. I will show you the video later of Trump walking into Davos. They said the aura was off the charts. There was an issue with his plane, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Now, Bitcoin 60K crash incoming. Remember, we were talking about that just a second ago. One key indicator is saying not so fast. What is that indicator? I guess that was him at Davos. A little interesting AI photo there. But the market flows suggest Bitcoin could dodge this crash. And we're talking about the other countries basically giving up on the US dollar. This might be a good reason for Bitcoin to appreciate, not just DXY crashing, but because of the yields and Trump's response. The US 10-year Treasury yield jumped to 4.3%, the highest since early September. This basically means mostly foreign investors want a higher premium to hold US debt. It makes a lot of sense. The 10-year yield is actually a very key indicator for the current cycle, but not for the reasons that you think. Historically, when the yields push into Trump's warning zone, basically the yields are too high for Trump to like this. He needs to get them down. He typically moves to pause tariffs so the bond markets can cool off. If it holds, October-style breakdown for Bitcoin to 60K still looks premature. So basically saying because the yields are going up, there's going to be a Trump taco is what they like to call it. The Trump always chickens out. I don't know if that's going to happen, but this might be a real reason why we are going to bounce. We did fill the CME gap. CME gap had been filled at 88K. Coin Bureau is reporting this on Cointelegraph. 88 has officially filled this long-standing CME gap. This is a gap that we were talking about around this period. We closed this one, but we hadn't closed this one. We actually would not push lower. There was still a gap at 88,200. This is the CME futures here. And if you look at that. We closed it beautifully, just wicked a hair below the candle body right there. So now this might be the real reason we're going to have a resume bull rally, at least in the short term, folks. And behind that, you have big money loading up, giving you evidence that we might see a sharp rebound here. Smart money loaded up $3 billion over 9 days worth of Bitcoin here. These are going to be the whales and the sharks, and they accumulated 36,000 Bitcoin over this period, while retail was dumping between the 10th and the 19th. Wallets holding between 10 and 10,000 Bitcoin, also referred to smart money, accumulated over $3 billion worth. Retail, those who have less than 1% of a Bitcoin, they're dumping their Bitcoin over the same period according to sentiment. So we're seeing smart money adopt it, and we're seeing dumb money, if you just want to call them that, the minnows, they are getting rid of their Bitcoin as the sharks accumulate. And when you zoom in on the Bitcoin shark specifically, it looks even more bullish. We've covered this chart before. We're going to zoom in a second. As of Wednesday, the sharks, those who have between 100 and 1,000, so the whales are between 1,000 and 10,000. The sharks, they're accumulating Bitcoin fastest pace since 2013. We got a new pump. Now, I thought the blue line was it at first. I was like, oh my God, that's just the edge of the chart. For some reason, he decided to make it blue.
Instead of black. Yeah, that's a strange choice, but okay.
It got me, it baited me. I fell for the bait. But we're at the highest level since 2013. It's going to be this period right here. And this was right as Bitcoin still had a parabolic rally. This is a little misleading, folks, because this is a log chart. So the blast off from 1,000 to 10,000, a lot of it is clustered in this area. And you can kind of, this is going to, okay, on the right side. I said 1,000 to 10,000. I meant 100 to 1K. So a lot of the $200 to $900 is clustered on the top portion of this, while the 100 to 200 is going to be a larger portion. So don't be misled by, just a little bit of gains. The majority of the gains came in this period because it is a logarithmic chart.
Yeah. Well, and speaking about big money and smart money accumulating, this is something I was actually researching yesterday. I had meetings with both Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch to kind of learn a little bit about their forward-looking opinions on crypto, and they both were very bullish and said we're moving in that direction very, very quickly. One of them had recently just wrapped up a meeting with Grayscale. And so I was saying, I could see this stuff happening on maybe like a 5 to 10 year. And they were like, no, 2 years, maybe, if not faster. And then one of the guys was, very plugged in with some top level people at BlackRock. Obviously BlackRock, very bullish, but big smart money, they're getting their ducks in a row. They're very heavily regulated, but they are absolutely rolling this stuff out to their clients, and it's going to be sooner rather than later. Maybe if you think it's 5 to 10 years, maybe it's 2 to 5 years. Obviously, and Trump mentioned this in Davos today, the Clarity Act, which is something I've been in market structure bill, something I've been talking about a lot for, it feels like a year now. That is going to be a key piece, and they definitely need to get that done before big money really starts rolling in. But they are absolutely moving this direction. And I expect, the big banks and the smartest money, they're accumulating hard assets, whether that's gold, silver, palladium, copper, all those sorts of things. Bitcoin will be a rotation after they feel like they're done accumulating gold and fiat. I mean, there's a lot is being said in Davos. It's hard to cover it all. I mean, Lutnick he did come out directly and say the reason we're here and the reason so many of us are here is because globalism has failed the West. It has failed the United States. That's the whole reason we're here. That's what we're coming to say. I mean, here's more or less. He just said it straight up. Globalism has failed. And I think this is the video here. He was talking about it
economics
in a very non-graceful way. Basically, he just said, it didn't work. All your ESG stuff failed. Why would anybody buy into this? It's not good for the individual who's participating in it. This globalism, collectivism isn't working. And so they are... they're not being shy. I'll just say that much. They've got a lot to say, and they're saying it with authority, and the world is in a shifting phase. Again, I keep mentioning this. The fact that Scott Bessent said we're going to see another Bretton Woods type thing, those are not small words.
You want to see a sign that globalism has failed? Let me add this to the stage. To the leaders of Europe, without us right now, you'd all be speaking German or a little Japanese, perhaps. Left out Italian. Mussolini fans are... they're epileptic right now. They're like, what about Mussolini? The fascism fans.
Yeah, I mean, he came in there pretty hard saying a lot of the countries that exist do it on the backs of the United States. And it's not, economically speaking, that's not untrue. I mean, I think the U.S. Being, I want to say close to a quarter of the world's GDP, even though we're not anywhere close to the quarter of the world's people. I mean, he spent a lot of time talking about that stuff, Sweden in particular. The markets initially did rally on some of this stuff, mostly I think on the comment that I mentioned earlier that we're not going to be using military action in Greenland. I think the markets liked to hear that at least, give some certain. I mean, he said it like that. I won't do that. Could, but I won't. And that's part of this playbook that they always put together. We're still, I would say, in that step 8 phase, and hopefully moving in, through the next few steps here soon. A lot of the powers that be are jockeying for power in the new system that we're going to be moving into. Want to give Brian Armstrong a lot of credit. He's also not pulling any punches. He's basically, he's going toe to toe with some of these old fat cats. The guy from France talking about how central banks are the highest form of safety and security and all that sort of stuff. Of like, oh, like you can't have currency without the government. That's been that way forever, and you need the government for it to be trustworthy. And it's like they're just so disconnected from reality. Yep. It's like, no, the government being involved is why it isn't trustworthy. And he's trying to basically say central banks are the highest form of trust. Brian Armstrong's like, well, Bitcoin is much more independent than any central bank. He's like, oh, we can't trust the private issuers of Bitcoin. And he's like, there are no private issuers of Bitcoin. That's why people trust it. It's far more independent than a central bank. And then it was kind of like a mic drop moment. The guy didn't have any response after that. And it just, in my opinion, goes to show the fundamental misunderstanding of Bitcoin that many of these old money, rich and powerful people have. They think they're going to be able to spin the same lies that they've been using for decades to control the masses. And it's simply not going to work anymore. This new technology is revolutionary, and they're going to get left behind because their egos don't allow them to see that.
Yeah, and we have a little bit extra free speech these days. So that probably makes everything possible. I want to give a huge shout out to a fast food conglomerate that made a major step towards being a Bitcoin-focused company. Steak and Shake has a new plan here. Let me add, all right, starting March 1st. So we're looking at, about 40 days. Steak and Shake will give all hourly employees, managers, at its company or operated restaurants a Bitcoin bonus of 21 cents for every hour worked. I'm not sure. They're going to be able to go back up to pay after a 2-year vesting period. Thank you, Fold app, for the assist. We take care of our employees. They, in turn, take care of our customers, and the results take care of themselves. Awesome to see that everyone's going to get, I assume, a backdated Bitcoin bonus.
Yeah.
Really now, the cool part would be if they bought, all right, at March 2023 prices or November 2023 prices, 21 cents for a 21K Bitcoin is a lot different than a 121K Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I mean, but hey, sitting at 80, 90K Bitcoin, I guess we're back over 90 right now. So we've definitely rallied since Trump's talk. But, these prices aren't too bad either compared to what's coming. That was the other thing that was interesting is you guys always like to be bearish here in the chat, but Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, exceptionally bullish. One of them said that their analyst that they recently met with has projections of Bitcoin at 500K very soon, like in the near future, less than 10 years. So I think it was more like 5 years. So that's more than a 5x on Bitcoin here in 5 years. And again, the big money, they're moving in, they're accumulating, their analysts are coming to these conclusions. It's not my opinion. It's not me saying it. I mean, it is. I agree with it, but it's fascinating when you hear it coming from some of the big dogs out there.
All right, yeah, a lot of people talking about Trump in the comments. We'll circle back to Trump a little bit later. We do got some major Bitcoin and other crypto news too.
Yeah, and drop your questions or comments in the chat. And we'll save some for Q&A towards the end if you have any. Because I assume you watched most of the talk too. You might have been setting the show up. It was right before we went live. But let us know what you guys think and what your questions are, because we'll talk about that more towards the end.
Let me just double click. This is a wild statement. You guys would be speaking German or Japanese if it weren't for me, weren't for the U.S. Thank you. I would say I was going to go into the scientists from another country that helped develop our rocket program, but we don't need to get into all that. Now, did you see his walk into the stage?
I didn't.
Davos?
No. I've missed the very beginning. Yeah,
they're saying he has so much aura there, TJ. They're like, this guy is coming in and he ain't mincing words, folks.
No, that was the energy up there on stage. He wasn't holding back. He had something to say, and it was, it's basically, it's essentially this: America's back, and we're not holding back. We have the strongest economy. We are, like, as far as GDP goes, we have the strongest military, and most of your other countries that like to act strong are riding on our back. Now, that doesn't. He did talk about being diplomatic. He did say he's not trying to create fights. He's not trying to, create harm. He wants to end wars. He wants to stop the killing in Ukraine and all that sort of stuff. But he did directly say, if Hamas doesn't back down and put their weapons down, we're going to wipe them off the map. So they better follow through with the agreement they signed. And it was talks like that were not, it was a show of strength across the board from everybody in our, from representing the U.S.
Now to a Bitcoin show of strength. Remember the Bitfinex whale that was buying all the Bitcoin that was mined every day? He's back, folks. He is now back. Initially, he was called Mr. 100, and then he was Mr. 200, and then he was Mr. 450. Well, now he's back to being Mr. 450. Initially, he was buying 300 Bitcoin a day. Now he has ramped up to 450 Bitcoin a day. Remember, we called him Mr. 100. This might have been 5-6 months ago at this point. He started accumulating again right around the 90K mark. And now he's spending $470 every second all day long to do a cost-weighted average purchase for Bitcoin, or DCA on steroids. You think buying, $100 worth every Friday? No, this man is buying $470 worth a second from 3 p.m. UTC. So that guy is back. Now, gold, I love this. I'm just going to kind of run through it quickly. Gold is eternal, largest store of value in human history, over 21 trillion, physically indestructible. Ask the sun. But after 8 years running a physical gold fund, I realized something shocking. Bitcoin is better. Here is why. I'm just going to run through some of these. Gold's weakness: final settlement requires humans, vaults, trucks, planes, customs. Anything breaks, you fail. Bitcoin solves this. Move anything, anywhere, anytime, instantly. No middlemen there. I thought Bitcoin could be shut down, replaced. Decentralized, anti-fragile, immune to confiscation. Absolutely scarce. Humans do not know true scarcity. Land, it expands. Dubai Islands. Oil, you could drill deeper. Even gold supply grows around 1% to 2% every single year. Bitcoin, 21 million forever. Gold survives chaos. Bitcoin thrives in chaos. And 900 trillion in global assets, but only 21 million Bitcoin. There's 60 million millionaires. Do the math. Gold always have a place, but Bitcoin, the future of wealth preservation. I just love that sentiment there. Just give you just a little bit of a reminder. You guys might be looking at the gold bugs, the silver bugs, the palladium pals. You're feeling like you're on the sidelines. I would just hold calm. I do think that gold Bitcoin chart is going to reverse. I don't think Bitcoin can bleed to gold much longer, in my personal opinion, whereas some very, very strong support there. Now, I did have that Brian Armstrong clip. TJ, I don't know if you wanted to play it or not.
I was going to. I had it queued up right here.
We kind of broke it down, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of said it faster. They get into it. You go to the Discover Crypto X. I've posted it on X there. A lot of these videos are on the Discover Crypto X. So
he's panicking with his hands. I mean,
yeah,
that's not the physical movements of a man with confidence.
No, that's basically he's an old French diplomat type guy, and he's basically saying, like, this stuff is good. We need it. It's good. But you can't separate it from the government. And Brian Armstrong's just like, wait a minute. And it's more towards the end. He obviously talks about, he's diplomatic at first, and then the guy's just saying stuff that's factually wrong. He starts mentioning, like I said, the issuers of Bitcoin, and he's like, there are no issuers. There's 0 issuers of Bitcoin. That is not a correct. He didn't say it this aggressively, but he said there's no issuers of Bitcoin. That's why it's far more independent than central banks. And he basically said,
I mean, look how condescending he's acting with his body language. Not Brian, the other guy.
Yeah, that's typical French right there. But yeah, like yeah, that's what I'm saying. That ego is why they're going to lose, and that's why in a lot of ways Europe they're resting on their laurels. They've done a lot of great things, and they've created shaped culture in the world in a great way in a lot of ways, and but now they're not adapting, and they're trying to think, well, we still have everything we need, and that right there. But anyway, I can go on
to mock somebody with the Jim Halpert It's a whole nother level of narcissism to mock with your arms crossed. That is true disdain and disgust for the other person that you're talking to. You do not do that unless you are absolutely disgusted and think that the other person you're talking to is trash on your shoe. Think of when you make this body language. It is like an aggressive door-to-door salesman that refused to leave. Like after 30 seconds, you cross your arms. the mechanic who's lying to you, and they pull something out and they say Johnson rod. That's what, like, this is the point of, like, you were done with the other person. He doesn't even want to have an open engagement with Brian Armstrong.
No. Well, I see Lionel here saying, "Hey, I'm French." I'm not saying all French people are bad or all French people are arrogant, but you do. I would assume most French people I know, because I know people that are from France too that I talk to, they would typically agree as a whole, if you take the entire French culture, there is an air of arrogance or an air of we are better than you. Especially if you talk about their food. So correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's kind of built into their language. They're the only language out there that purges words that come from any other language because they don't want any other. They want to keep theirs clean and pure, so to speak. So
yeah, the only thing I know about French from growing up, pop culture wise, at least, was just Pepe Le Pew. Very aggressive when it comes to certain things. Very aggressive.
That might be because he was a skunk. I think skunks are like that. But anyway,
I mean, he needed to be Me Too'd. You know what I mean? It's a different lens in 2026 than 1996, or whenever you might have been watching that. Back to Trump, though, we do have a little Trump crypto angle here. Token airdrop. Will the grift stop? But this isn't tradable, folks. This isn't tradable. So maybe you don't sell these here. So maybe it's not a grift. He announces a token drop for DJT shareholders on February 2nd. So it's going to snapshot on the 2nd. If you don't know what a snapshot is, it kind of freezes on that day, and everybody who has tokens or stocks, are going to be eligible. So it's going to just look at that snapshot in time. You must hold at least one complete share to qualify for the reward program, is what they're calling it. It has no cash value, cannot be sold, cannot be transferred. Representatives clarified they do not represent ownership stakes in any related entity. Crypto.com is going to handle the minting process. The shareholders may eventually access perks across the product lineup. So what are you going to get? Special access, maybe pricing related to Truth Social, Truth Plus streaming service, Truth Predict, and a gamified prediction marketplace currently in development, which is called the Truth Predictor. So this is what you're going to get. How's the stock performing? Let's go to the 5-day. Looks like it was front ran there a little bit, TJ. Like maybe someone knew about it. Dumped.
Yeah. Somebody always knows. There's always an insider. That I actually learned this just recently. That expression, we say it a lot on this show. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. You know what the rest of that quote is that I've never heard anybody say?
Solvents are great for engine repair.
Yeah.
Is that the rest?
No, the rest. And this is, didn't know that's a John Maynard Keynes quote.
Okay.
So from Keynesian economics, which shapes a lot of the problems in our world today. But the rest of that quote is the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, especially when it's to the hands of a savvy, deep-pocketed stock manipulator. And I was like, wow, that puts a little bit more context on it. Especially if you think about crypto, and we're using that expression in crypto a lot. So yeah, if you've got a deep-pocketed, smart-witted insider trading against you on the other side, it can absolutely stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Obviously, back in those days, back in the 20s and 30s, is when a lot of that insider trading and stock manipulation was kind of being born. And those methods and methodologies and strategies did not die with lawmaking and rules. They've just found new ways, shapes, and forms. But a fun fact for the day.
There you go. Now, fun fact for Litecoin holders, it's over. Sell, get out. I told you this, folks. I warned you. We're talking about some of these multi-year trend lines. Litecoin just broke a multi-year trend line here. Let me zoom in a little bit. I believe we can see this is going to be right around from 32 was when we first started this trend line, and the year 2019. So we're breaking a multi-year trend line. I guess they have it going to this. I have it on monthly, so maybe that's why. If I go to a 3-day, maybe we can see some points. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So this is let's just get the exact date here. This trend line, 2,580 days. Off the top of my head, I can't give you the exact amount of years, though. But yeah, we're looking at essentially a 7.5, 8-year trend line. Litecoin, wow. I didn't plan that when you saw I just kind of drew that line up there. Look at this. This is a make or break moment for Litecoin holders. It's not looking good. It's not low. Oh my gosh. TJ keeps getting worse and worse, getting rejected. What do you recommend for a Litecoin holder today? What should they do with their Litecoin bag? They're down. They don't want to sell at a loss. Maybe they got, a $300 Litecoin or maybe $200 Litecoin. What would your advice be for someone who bought a $200 Litecoin?
That's a good question. I do think it can rally back when everything rallies, but you want to be careful waiting for that everything rally too long, right? I mean, people have been waiting that for a lot of different altcoins for a long time. Litecoin, in my opinion, is best when you get it. Litecoin works on a halving schedule too. A lot of people forget that. It's best when you get it pre-halving. It's post-halving. I don't hold any Litecoin. I'll say that much. If I still had Litecoin, I'd be cutting my loss. Yeah, I'd be doing exactly that. I'd be cutting my losses. And you can carry those losses forwards. Again, I'm not a tax attorney. Oh, on that note, we are going to have a tax attorney on the show on Thursday to answer any of your tax questions. So if you have any, drop them in the chat now or leave a comment on this video. We'll try to pull them. But we're going to have a tax attorney that I work with on the show to answer any tax questions. But tax loss harvesting is real. Taking losses is a real thing. You can carry those losses forward. So you really want to, and it works great in crypto. You keep your winners and you sell your losers. The losses you take on those losers dramatically can reduce the taxes you pay on your winners. So for me, if it's a short-term trade and you're down, I'm moving out of Litecoin. Now, Litecoin in some ways has a lot of the qualities that you need for these, institutional grade stuff as far as time on market and decentralization, a lot of these other things. But I've generally, unless it's right before the halving or 2 to 3 months before the Litecoin halving, generally speaking, I'm not big Litecoin guy.
All right, now we do have I have a little chart for you here. This is Litecoin chart. I just want to share the RSI starting to maybe hit oversold. So to me, this is saying we might go a lot lower. I was just kind of curious what happened last time the RSI went into oversold. I'm going to hide the price, hopefully. I didn't really hide it too much, but it's going to be basically right here. It's kind of what we're looking at. This candle right here, this weekly candle, it's just coming from the middle. You would still end up dropping an additional 50%. So just a little bit of a warning there. Litecoin might have a lot lower to go. I would not be holding that one. I would dump it. Maybe I'd dump it for some Chainlink. Chainlink just got another partnership. Kalshi upgraded Chainlink oracles for their prediction market data on chain. Looks like some dorks went into the code there, found that out. And Chainlink also offered a new product, 24/5 U.S. equities data streams for tokenized stocks, ETFs. They're going to roll this out and said it could help bring parts of the roughly $80 trillion equities market on chain. They do have a list of partners. It says at least 8 crypto protocols are already using the new data streams. Lighter, BitMEX, Apex, HelloTrade, Decibel, Monaco, Penny Labs, and Orderly Network. And hopefully we'll end up seeing this roll over to traditional companies. TJ, maybe we'll see this on a E-Trade partnership or I'm trying to just think, maybe even like a JP Morgan or a Citibank, like a traditional bank, maybe.
Yeah, I think this is a stair step into the future. Obviously, we covered, I saw this from, Chainlink great integration up, send it lower. Yeah, that's pretty consistent with Chainlink. But yes, I do think we'll see Chainlink continue to grow in these integrations. That announcement about the stock market going 24/7 soon and going on chain, like that is a fundamental shift. That's probably one of the more significant changes to the U.S. stock market than we've seen in decades, if not longer than that. So I think, again, the system is updating right now. I think that's a great phrase that came out of Coinbase, update the system. That is happening. It doesn't happen as fast as we would all like it. We can all see with vision what's coming, but it's gonna take time to change these very, very old systems. But they are updating it. I think what we just saw with Chainlink rolling that out, it does allow for a lot of these things to happen. And over time, the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and beyond, we're going to see a drastically different world when it comes to the world of equities, when it comes to the world of crypto and on-chain and Ethereum. Cases getting stronger and stronger and stronger for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and in some way, and Chainlink, and in some ways, maybe getting a little bit weaker for a lot of the other altcoins. Not saying that there's not, speculative plays in small altcoins. Like I hold plenty of small altcoins, but I would say my portfolio is highly concentrated into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink. And then I've got, I guess Arrow would be one of those ones that I have a decent holding in, nothing close to what I have in Ethereum.
Can I
and
kind of
Bitcoin,
throw
but
another altcoin your way?
sure.
Near. We just got a near filing to convert a ETP to an ETF, essentially. What about near? We probably got a lot of people holding near. I think I maybe have a small bag of near left. If I were to sell it, I would probably stay in AI. Maybe I would look at Tau because it's maybe a little bit less competition than Near. Near kind of competing with a lot of strong L1s, whereas Tau not so much competing with the Solana or an Aptos.
Tau. I do have some Tau. I believe I have some Near. Again, nothing close to what I have in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So those are in my speculative plays. I do think there are great speculative opportunities in mid to low cap altcoins. The layer one battle, I have some Solana, I have altcoins. I'm not trying to say don't hold altcoins. I have some. But the more you see big money coming in, they're really looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's it. Now you're speculating on the fact that if Bitcoin and Ethereum go up dramatically, you're going to see these lower market cap ones, ride that wave, which I think is highly likely. That's where I've made a lot of money over the years, is in altcoins, getting in early and selling them after astronomical pumps. So I'm not saying that will never happen. I'm just saying from a structurally constructed level of markets, Bitcoin has found product market fit as a store of value, a way to move value, a way to transfer value quickly and more efficiently than anything else on the market. Ethereum, in a lot of ways, especially with Mega ETH kicking in and the settlement speeds and the efficiency and the cost, has established itself as the most secure virtual machine that can tokenize and do smart contracts. And so security, decentralization, time on market, all of that stuff matters a lot when you're talking about money like the stock market, money like banks use to settle things. So, that's what big old money is going to be focused on. And then, we're kind of speculating on the equivalent. I don't really want to call them penny stocks, but it's basically micro caps, I guess our version of saying it. And you have to remember, the entire crypto market is a micro cap compared to, gold or, some of these other major assets. So,
yeah. And speaking of gold, we are up on the gold option. It's way up today. Looks like it was pulling back a little bit. It was up a lot higher, and we're up about 480% just on the gold options. The silver options we did a lot better on, but we're still up on palladium. We're still up on gold, and maybe getting to the point where maybe I can start entertaining the thought of taking some profits. Now, let's talk about XRP. I said at the start of the show, XRP just had their largest outflow in history when it comes to their ETFs. It happened yesterday. Let's break down the numbers. So get out of my way. XRP ETFs had $53 million worth of outflows on Tuesday. Okay, this is their second ever outflow day and the largest outflow day since it began trading last year. Cumulative outflows really barely did anything when you look at the entirety of the inflows. Inflows dropped to $1.2 billion. So we had $53 million worth of outflows. When you look at the total number, we're still deep in the green, 1.2 million. The outflow only came from one ETF. I swear to God, Crypto Basic. One ETF, it was the Grayscale ETF, lost 55. There was one that had some inflows there. And when you look at the entirety of the crypto market, very normal. XRP, 50 million in outflows. Bitcoin ETFs, 400 million in outflows. ETH, 200 million in outflows. With Solana, inflows, and Chainlink inflows. So maybe something to think about right there. TJ, if you were to buy an ETF, are you buying XRP, Bitcoin, ETH, or Chainlink here?
If I'm buying an ETF, I'm probably buying Bitcoin, and it's probably for tax reasons, but or I'd look at some of these baskets. To be honest, I think those things
I like those.
The indexes that hold, they're going to be weighted by, top 10s weighted differently. Obviously, that's going to be predominantly Bitcoin. Most of those, I think, are more than 50% Bitcoin, 56, 57, even 60. So I'd probably be looking at one of those products, but I am not in that headspace right now. I still am a fan of self-custody. If you guys are not familiar with self custody, obviously Arculus, one of our main partners here, I'm a huge advocate for it. Sovereignty and freedom, it's big part of the ethos behind Bitcoin specifically. You can get 20% off with our discount using code DC20. We're going to run this and we'll be right back.
We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.
All right.
And I was looking at the number. The underlying ETF was only up 2%. The options that we pulled the trigger on are up 25% today.
Wow. Nice.
So it is like a levered play. Puts, calls. Maybe we'll do a little video on this later. You can always ask me some questions in the Discord.
Yeah.
Maybe, I like chopping it up in there.
Maybe spend some time on the member stream Friday talking about it. Obviously,
there we go.
DZ's turning into our options guru over here. Well done, sir. Well done.
Crypto ages us, y'all.
Yeah. I was way younger there. That's an old video. I need to make a new one. I mean, I was younger. So
when I was a boy, let's talk about a great question for chat here. 2026. What is this going to be the year of? Is it going to be the year? Type in the chat. Is it going to be the year of ETH or the year of BTC? Will 2026 be the year of Ethereum or Bitcoin? Will Ethereum outperform Bitcoin or will Bitcoin outperform Ethereum? Let me know down below. 2026, what is going to have the better gains, Bitcoin or ETH? Now, this is just kind of breaking it down pretty quickly here. Bitcoin's value prop. What is Bitcoin's value proposition? It does one thing exceptionally well. Acts as a predictable, unchanging store of value. There's exactly 21 million coins, no more, no less. What is ETH's value proposition? Well, it takes the opposite approach. It's designed as a global computer that runs smart contracts. Bull case for ETH in 2026. If the ETFs can just get a quarter of Bitcoin's institutional inflows, the proportional impact is going to be substantially larger. A sizable portion also is locked up, either staked or deployed in DeFi protocols. So that's the ETH bull case. Bitcoin bull case. Well, ETH's narrative, you got to explain proof of stake. You got to explain smart contracts, layer 2s, fee burning mechanisms. Bitcoin narrative fits on a napkin. And this is something I have harped on a lot. I've talked about Bitcoin's tokenomics, how easy it is to explain. Same thing for Tau. And honestly, ETH can be a little bit difficult to explain sometimes. Now, let me see here. Hey, we do got somebody in the copper. I'm about to pull the trigger on more copper. I know gold is outperforming copper, but we've seen these multi-year charts. We've seen it on the weekly. We've seen it on the 3-day. Heck, we've seen it on the monthly. A reverse is coming. And I actually pulled the trigger on some July options as well. Now, my future copper options are going to be for July expiry, not April, just in case our thesis does take a while to play out there. We're still very, very bullish on copper, man. I love the copper play here. All right, so what's 2026, the year of the snake? All right, so 2026 is going to be the year of ETH. ETH. Better be ETH. Nothing. ETH. Neither. Finally, we get a Bitcoin. So definitely the ETH bulls are outpacing the Bitcoin bulls right now. ETH can 3x, Bitcoin can't. ETH BTC looks like it's about to go up a lot compared to Bitcoin. So we got a lot of people saying it's going to be the year of ETH. Gotti saying it's going to be the year of the brokies. Let's see here. Man, DZ, you had me even looking at copper. Dirty dog. I want us to make money. All right. 20, 30, 40x on that silver option. Now, I did pull the trigger. It's down a little bit today. I think it's maybe trading in the $19 range. We got out at 14 and some change, close to $15. I realized, all right, maybe this goes up to 20. Maybe it goes to 25. I don't want to be stuck in this with a 33% upside when I'm looking at some things with the 3x upside, meaning, a 200% upside. So I've been looking at some of that. So I'm saying it's going to be the year of XRP, year of ETH. ETH's got the good projects going. We do got some Bitcoin fans, but the majority of people are saying is going to be the year of ETH. So TJ, that answers the question. It's going to be the year of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, those are a lot of people holding. I sure hope it's the year of ETH. That's how I feel because I obviously hold substantial positions in both. But Bitcoin has been outperforming ETH for a long time. I do think it's ETH's time to rally. I did want to come back, just briefly mention we have given that rally back. That we pumped a little bit after the Trump speech, and it was just a short-lived rally, and then the markets are back to doing what they were doing before the Davos stuff started rolling out. So still seems like the pain is not over. And I do, again, it seems like we're going to probably at least 87 or 85 later in the week, but we'll, with some of those prices you mentioned earlier in the show, potentially dramatically lower than that. So
there we go. And I do got some research I'm going to be working on now. If you're wondering, 717 $50 call. So it's the July call option for copper at $50. I know trading at 35. We don't want it to go to 50. We want to get out as soon as it hits 40, 42, somewhere around there. Now, later on, I'm going to be watching this. I don't know if there's a video in this or not, but David Sachs sat down with CNBC, gave him 15 minutes of his time. I'm going to listen to see, does he give us any insights into DeFi, how to invest? Should we buy Aave? Should we buy Chainlink? Should we buy Circle stock? What should we have our eye on? Or is it going to be Bitcoin? Or maybe it's the precious metals got more room to roll. So I'll be listening to this. Joe Kernan is thinking about some liberal on X that he has to reply to. That's my guess. I don't know if you ever follow his X account. He loves chopping it up with Democrats there. But yeah, I'll be looking into this. And where are you trading your options? I will do a explainer on Friday for the members, but it's on Robinhood. Everything I've been doing has been on Robinhood. And I want to give a big shout out to CryptoFace for putting this on my radar back in October. That's when we pulled the trigger on some 60-cent silver options that end up trading $20 today. And so big shout out to CryptoFace, Marcus Cypher, and everybody smash the like button. We're trying to make you some money. We're going to detail how we're making money. We're just going to share this knowledge, and then we can all rise together. Rising lifts all ships, people.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys enjoyed this content we put together, obviously, DZ, everybody here working hard, pulling these clips, doing this research, sharing with you what we're doing to make money. And if, all we're asking is one little like button, maybe one little comment, that really does go a long way, telling the YouTube algorithm to push this content out, not suppress it. We're not holding back with our thoughts and opinions anymore. We're going to tell you what we really think. And if you like that, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike button. I don't care.
Adios, folks. We'll see you in the future.